Welcome to this video, detailing the planning and building of the Merseyrail Underground. Using previously unpublished plans and photographs, we will see how the separate electric lines of Merseyside were joined together to form an integrated and successful rapid transit network. The first of the future Merseyrail lines to be electrified was the loss-making steam-operated Mersey Railway. Converting to electric traction in 1903, this proved to be the turning point of the railway, and passengers and revenue steadily increased. By the time it lost its independence in 1948, it had very healthy passenger numbers. The second lines to be electrified were those of the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway out of Liverpool Exchange to Ormskirk and Southport. The conversion to electric here was also a success, but by the start of the 1960s they were starting to see a steady decline in traffic. This decline was due to the increasing affordability and convenience of the private car. This would lead to a rise in traffic, and the unsuitable road system of Merseyside was going to face a big problem with future congestion. Towards the end of the 1950s, a series of meetings was held to discuss the area's future transport needs. These led to a conference chaired by none other than the local MP for Wallasey and then Transport Minister Ernest Marples. He said he could only approve schemes that were properly coordinated. This was to lead to a setting up in 1961 of a steering committee to discover the likely transport needs for the area. This committee proposed that a projected road building programme was going to cost the area around £300 million to implement. Shocked at the cost, cheaper alternatives were looked into. One suggestion from British Railways was the joining up of the separate local lines to form an integrated rapid transit network. Back in 1914, a proposal was put forward to extend the Mersey Railway in a loop line round the city centre of Liverpool. British Railways' suggestion was to revive these plans as a way to minimise the huge cost of building new roads. To further enhance the railways, a north-south link from Liverpool Exchange to Liverpool Central was also recommended. It made sense to link up these electric lines with those of the Mersey. This link would also allow an outer loop line utilising the Cheshire Lines route via West Derby. By 1962, preliminary plans had been prepared. Included in the plans was a short section of new line in Birkenhead. This was for a Borrowing junction to allow West Kirby and New Brighton trains to pass under those from Rock Ferry, eliminating a busy junction. Another new section was the Edge Hill Spur. This was a link from south of Liverpool Central to Edge Hill. All these links would allow local services to be diverted and mainline trains concentrated at Lime Street. In turn, this would release the Liverpool Exchange and Central sites for redevelopment. There then commenced a series of Board Transport Committee and planning meetings to move the proposals forward. Minds were soon focused by the publication of the Beeching Report in 1963, and the various committees registered their opposition to the closures. To give a definitive way forward for the local transport needs, the Transport Steering Committee was to set up in late 1965 the Merseyside Area Land and Transport Study. A positive interim report was passed to Liverpool Corporation in 1967, who were keen to promote a bill in Parliament to get the new lines approved. This bill was approved and became the Mersey Railways Extension Act 1968. The final Maltz report was published in 1969, and as well as a number of new and improved roads, including intercity motorways, the rail improvements were recommended as an urgent priority. By 1969, the Merseyside Passenger Transport Authority had been established as a result of the 1968 Transport Act, and the separate Merseyside Transport Executive was to decide policy and budget. In January 1970, a 75% development grant was sanctioned by the Department of Environment, with a further 75% grant towards the whole project in 1971, along with the Exchange Central Link receiving royal assent. In 1971, the railways of Liverpool were rebranded as Merseyrail. This rebrand was to recognise the soon-to-be integrated railway network. The plans and concept for the network were now well underway. There are to be 4 separate areas of new railways. Over in Birkenhead, there was the Borrowing Junction. In Liverpool, there was the Mersey Railway Terminal Loop, the Exchange Central Link, and the Edge Hill Spur. Starting with the loop, the new line was to diverge from the main line at Man Allen Junction using a short heading built by the Mersey Railway, originally intended to be a freight line. This would then enter a new platform just north of the original Mersey Railway one. The line then turns north-eastwards and into a platform under Moorfields. This would, via escalators, allow passengers to interchange with the lines on the link. After Moorfields, the line turns north-east in a curve that takes it under the junction of Hatton Garden and Tyke Barn Street. Then, heading straight and under part of the buildings of William Brown Street and the corner of St John's Gardens, to a platform directly beneath St George's Hall. Passing under Lime Street on a south-east angle, the line then turns south-west, curving under Brownlow Hill, close to the Adelphi Hotel and Renshaw Street. Then under the former Mersey Railway platforms at Central, to a new one under the Lyceum and partway down Church Street. Now heading west, it connects with the original Mersey Railway lines towards the end of Lord Street. The link line starts by diverging from the 4 tracks into Exchange, over the reused Great Howard Street viaduct, and drops into tunnel just before Leeds Street. The twin boards passing under platforms 9 and 10 at Exchange. The 2 Northern Line platforms stretching from Tive Barn Street to just by Dale Street. The twin tunnels then pass under North John Street before curving south-east to join the Mersey Railway Tunnel at the junction of Lord Street and Paradise Street. After reusing the former Merseyrail low-level platforms, the lines diverge again, with headings to and from the Edgehill Spur, before joining the former Central lines out of Central High Level. Over in Bergen Head, a new junction, directly underneath the junction of Bridge Street and Hamilton Street, would bring the New Brighton and West Kirby bound trains into a new platform, just a short distance at a lower level to the original one. The line would then curve underneath the Rock Ferry bound tracks and rejoin the original alignment underneath Lawrence Street. As with any major project like this, the plans were subject to planning objections and alterations, mostly to appease landowners, but in the case of the Loop and Link, it was also to fit in with the long-term plans of Liverpool City Council. During the plan's early stages, the Edgehill Spur was altered from a relatively simple and cheap design to a more complex and expensive one. The original plans had 2 single-track lines, one passing under the Cheshire lines, then both joining the old Wapping Tunnel and through to Edgehill. But these plans were to be revised so as to serve another new underground station, called University, to be built under Oxford Street, close to the Catholic Cathedral. Coming out from Central, one line would curve round under Hardman Street and Hope Street, and into the new University station, whilst the line coming into Central would pass down the east side of Hope Street before curving round and following the earlier Wapping alignment. Indeed, this line was to be connected to the Wapping Tunnel, but via a draft relief shaft. The arrangement of the platforms and escalators at Lime Street low level were altered to accommodate the Council's proposed civic centre and bus interchange. These original plans from British Rail show the proposed layout. The platform being more or less as it was built, but the escalators were to lead directly to the concourse at Lime Street Station, coming out opposite platforms 1 and 2. This triple escalator was to lead down to the east end of the low-level station, but this was changed to having the booking hall underneath St George's Plateau, with a triple escalator down to the centre of the low-level station. But even this was to be changed, as will be seen later. At Liverpool Central, objections were lodged by various landowners. In order to construct the new platform, access would have been required to the basements of several properties. Shown in this plan is the original alignment. As can be seen, the link platform reuses the original Mersey Railway ones. The deep level, however, is on a different alignment, with the platform on the opposite side than is built. Also, there's only one triple escalator, opposite to where it is today and leading straight down to the deep level. This plan view further showing the original layout. One interesting proposal not to be pursued was a single line extension from south of Liverpool Central on the link, round to the second underground platform at Lime Street. With the plans laid out and the financing available, tenders were sent out for contractors to build the new extensions. The contract to build the Mersey Railway Terminal Loop and Burrowing Junction was won by Edmund Nuttall Limited. This company was no stranger to the geology of the area, having recently completed the building of the Wallasey Road Tunnel. The contract for the exchange to Central Link was let to Leonard Fairclough Limited. They would also dig the short headings for the Edgehill Spur, pending this extension's approval. Construction of the loop started first, with then Transport Minister John Peyton starting the pneumatic drill, signalling the start of the works at Man Island. Earlier, British Rail had pre-installed steel strengthening at key points along the former Mersey Railway tunnels, in readiness for the construction of the underground junctions. These are seen here and in situ at Man Island Junction, the start of the loop. Other main working sites for the loop were Moorfields, St George's Plateau and Central Station. Today, all signs of the shaft have been lost under new development. The site of the new loop platform starts directly under the central reservation of the Strand and heads off between the modern office block and the former White Star Building. Tunnel boring machines, or moles, are usually used in contracts like these, but on both the loop and link, Dosco roadheader machines were used instead. These have a movable arm with a rotating head fitted with hardened steel teeth. They would grind the rock into small pieces, which was then loaded onto a 3-foot gauge temporary railway. One of the Doscos is seen here, and at where cutting the rock face. The conveyor to remove the rock can be seen at the back. This model demonstrates the arrangement of the Dosco and the conveyor. At Man Island, one of the wagons for the 3-foot railway is lowered down a construction shaft, and the rough 3-foot railway is seen here. And this view showing how the spoil was loaded onto the train. One major headache for the contractors was the influx of water. Being close, and at times directly beneath the old pool of Liverpool, they would see water seeping into the workings. This is very clear here at the site of James Street. This is to be an issue that will affect the underground right through to this day. Staying at James Street, we see the work to connect the lift landing and Water Street entrance down onto the new platform, with comparisons between then and now. These are the main stairs down to the platform under construction. Going back to the plans, we see how the escalator and passageway cladding was to be applied. Originally it was to follow the contour of the tunnel, later redesigned to the present suspended and flat ceiling design. The old central bound platform was to be taken out of regular use. At the end we see one of the original Mersey Railway signal boxes. Moving on to Moorfields, the line passes under the North John Street ventilation building of the Queensway Road Tunnel, and also the tunnel itself. The wooden platform here stretches from under the former Pioneer Assurance Building to what was Orange Street. This street has now disappeared under the Liverpool Civil and Family Court Building. The approximate site of the platform end is under this anonymous gated entrance and underground car park. Construction of this platform was also in very wet ground. Extra pumping was put in during the late 1980s to alleviate the problem, the water causing signalling issues as well as excessive corrosion of the track. Meanwhile, back in the 1960s, Liverpool City Council had ambitious plans for Liverpool, one of which was a system of elevated walkways to separate pedestrians from road traffic. To link into this network, the ticket office at Moorfields was built at first floor level. This walkway was eventually dropped from the plans, but not before the station had already been built. Passengers travelling down to the Wirral line now have to use 4 escalators, 1 up and 3 down. The first floor ticket office is seen here under construction. This has seen extensive change since opening, with an M2Go shop where the ticket office used to be, and new toilets. Though some parts are still recognisable from the original. One of the many escalators at Moorfields, this is escalator number 3, in various stages of construction. This escalator leading from the platform to the lowered passageway leading to the Northern Line. We'll come back to Moorfields later to look at the Northern Line construction, but for now we'll head round to Liverpool Lime Street. To construct the low-level station at Lime Street, the contractors had to excavate St George's Plateau. This is where the booking office was to be built. It is here we see the start of construction for the escalator shaft. Note the use of a simple plumb line. As mentioned earlier, the siting of this escalator had to be altered, but further changes were to be forced on the contractors. The economic situation of the 1970s saw the government making cuts to public spending, and the new underground wasn't to escape economies. At Lime Street, the long escalator's 62-foot length was ordered to be cut down to 50 feet, with a single up escalator and stairs down for the remaining 12 feet. This had been expected to save £100,000, but at the point of the landing, the rock was very fractured and required costly support. The additional support for the rock is seen here. Any savings were likely lost due to the extra work needed. The landing and the stairway are seen here under construction, and how it is today. The breakthrough of the loop was at the east end of Lime Street on the 8th of October 1973. Seen here is the unfinished platform, at the point where it enters the station, on an uphill grade from Moorfields. The platform is seen here nearing completion, and how it appears today. Just before this, there is a draft relief shaft, seen here in 2020. This rises up and comes out alongside St John's Gardens. This grille in the gardens is its outlet. No doubt the many that pass by it today totally unaware of its purpose. This is the view from track level, looking towards Central. A compromise to having the escalators and booking hall inside Lime Street was to have a subway leading from St John's Lane to the station and booking hall. This is seen nearing completion. Like at Moorfields, the booking hall has seen change since opening. Here it is during fitting out, and as it is today, with an M2Go shop. Heading around to Liverpool Central, and we see the construction of the deep level platform. As at Lime Street, a draft relief shaft is provided just before the trains enter the station. At Central, this also doubles as a pumping station. The main entrance to the platform is seen here, clearly showing the curved profile of the original design. Work on new escalators is preventing a direct comparison. The low-level platform from track level. The main line station was demolished in advance of redevelopment. You see here the former Platform 1 and Cab Road have been demolished to reveal the Mersey Railway platforms below. This was so the new concourse to platform escalators could be built. The Northern Line platforms being the former Mersey Railway ones. South of Central, you see the junction for the Edge Hill Spur. This was a flying junction, so as to avoid conflicting movements. As can be seen, they just lead to dead ends. With the project running behind schedule, over budget, and with the general economic situation of the 70s, this part of the project was to be postponed and later abandoned altogether. A future video will examine the lost lines and plans for Merseyrail. Again, the concourse has been completely altered from its original layout. It is seen in the final months of construction, and as it is now. After Central, the line rejoins the Mersey Railway just before James Street in this step plate junction, underneath the top of Lord Street, called Derby Square Junction. Joining here is also the stock interchange line, the former Mersey Railway route to Liverpool Central low level. Over at Birkenhead, the Burrowing Junction and Platform 3 at Hamilton Square start at a step plate junction, similar to the one at Derby Square, called Canning Street Junction. The old platform is starting directly under this part of Hamilton Street, whilst the new one is under the buildings on the left. This ends just under Mortimer Street by the Town Hall, and the old one by the junction of Hamilton Square. The draft relief shaft here is connected to the old Mersey Railway ventilation heading, built in 1886. Construction of the platform and tunnel here was in much harder rock, so blasting was used instead of the Doscos. Seen here is the Town Hall end of the new platform, with a travelling shutter installing the concrete lining. Looking the opposite way, we see the bare concrete walls awaiting the melamine panels. The finishes throughout the new works consist of these panels and also glass reinforced polyester units, moulded into wall panels, bins and seats. The various modular designs are seen here at Moorfields. These were first tested at James Street to see what the public thought of them. Sadly, none of these were preserved when the stations were recently refurbished. The British Rail plans show how the new platform was joined to the old by steps and escalators. To bring the old platforms up to the same standard, the panels and polyester units were added to the walls and a canopy added above the platforms. Seen here is a Class 47 loco working alongside the battery electric unit on engineering duties. The framework for the canopy is being installed, whilst the new platform 3 is seen here nearing completion. After passing under the Rock Ferry line, the new line joins the former Mersey Railway line underneath Lawn Street. At this point, the rock cover was thinning out, and the decision was taken to open up the old tunnel in order to connect the new line. We can see the top of the old tunnel here, just before breakthrough. At the top of the coffer dam, we see that the ABC cinema is showing a very appropriate film, with definitely no need for a surround sound. Today we see the cinema has been demolished. New shops and flats and a car park have been built where the shaft once was. Underground at track level, the roof of the tunnel clearly shows where it had been opened up. We now move on to the link line, which starts here on the former Great Howard Street viaduct. This picture shows the lines into exchange on the right, with the newly laid link line in front. As at Lawn Street and Birkenhead, the rock at the start of the tunnels for the link was also quite shallow, so this section was built using cut and cover and cast in place box tunnels. The preparation work is seen here. The first of the box tunnels is in the course of construction here, beyond which the rock becomes deep enough for the Doscos to take over. At Moorfields by Tempest Hay, cut and cover was also used for constructing part of the intermediate passageway, leading down from the booking hall seen earlier to the Northern Line platforms. From today's Northern Line platforms, this area can be located by the change in profile of the tunnel lining. The intermediate passageway is seen here in various stages of its construction. This view is looking towards the up escalator to the booking hall. The opposite direction towards the Northern Line and Old Hall Street exit is seen John fitting out and as it is today. Also on this level is the final resting place of Roy Vivian Hughes. He was the British Rail civil engineer that played a major role in the development of the Merseyrail Underground. This plaque marking the site of his ashes. Down at the two Northern Line platforms, we see that the tunnel profile is larger than those of the Wirral Line. This is looking towards Sand Hills. The framework to support the melamine panels is seen here during fitting out, and ready for the panel installation is the Liverpool bound platform. These vents on the tunnel wall are the draft relief vents. And come out at Moorfields, next door to Moorfields News. A further vent outlet at the Dale Street end of Moorfields is the draft relief shaft for the Wirral Line. Back at Liverpool Central, we see the old Mersey Railway low-level platforms being rebuilt to serve the Northern Lines. The platform hasn't been altered much apart from the addition of escalators, stairs and a lift. With the work mostly complete, the new underground was nearly ready for opening. In preparation, a radio, newspaper and poster campaign was launched to promote the new service. The link was to open first. The first passenger train was at 6:05 AM on the 2nd of May 1977. On the same day, the electric service was extended to Kirby, followed by the Loop and Burrowing Junction on the 9th of May. At first, the Loop only served James Street and Central, pending completion of the escalators at both Lime Street and Moorfields. Lime Street Low Level opening at midday on the 30th of October 1977. Work still continued, however, on the extension out to Garston. Seen here is an engineer's train, as well as some Class 502 units undertaking test runs on the Garston line. The Central to Garston section was to be opened at 6:28 am on the 3rd of January 1978. The final part, Moorfields Wirral Line platform, opened on the 8th of May 1978. On the 1st of November, the first of the replacement stock for the aged Northern Line trains was introduced. Designated as Class 507s, these were to replace the 1938 LMS-built Class 502s. All that remained now was the official opening by Her Majesty the Queen on the 25th of October 1978. She revealed the plaque declaring the system open and met the various guests. The plaque is still on display at Moorfield Station. The success of the new lines was soon apparent. Passenger numbers began to rise steadily. Since that time, the Merseyrail Underground has proved its worth and has become a vital and successful transport system for the people of Merseyside and beyond.